Over the past few weeks, I've been trying to make Crimson Desert look as good as possible, but something kept ruining the experience for me. Every time I entered a new area, I was back in the settings. Every update, I was back in the settings, constantly tweaking things and constantly breaking my immersion with the game. So I decided to finally sit down and properly test everything. I did my research and I finally found a setup that gives you great graphics and stable FPS without having to touch your settings ever again, no matter where you are in the game. And the ironic thing is, it was all down to one setting. I'm not even joking. It was down to one goddamn setting. Now, first off, just to be clear, I am not running on some insane top-end PC. I've got an 11th gen i9 11900 processor. If you've got a high-end PC, you're most likely not on YouTube trying to find fixes in the settings. So this setup should work for most people who are trying to balance performance and quality on a mid-range PC. Now, before I get into the settings, you need to understand this. You do not need crazy high FPS for this game to run smooth. And if you can get your FPS above 40, ideally somewhere between 40 and 60, the game is going to look like it's running completely fine. The animations will stay consistent and the game will feel like it's running smooth. And you will definitely stop noticing those little dips in FPS and the graphics that are ruining your experience. This is the setting I was talking about that completely changed everything for me. And it is the resolution. Now, most people are either trying to play at 1080 or they're trying to push up to 4K. I have a 4K monitor, so I am able to run it in 4K, but that is where my problem lied. I could not get it to balance with good FPS while maintaining quality graphics. And when I went to 1920 by 1080, honestly, it just did not look good, especially on my monitor. The FPS was very high up, but the graphics were severely suffering. And that is when I finally found the middle ground, this sweet spot, 2560 by 1440. I know that seems so obvious for some, but seriously, I did not think about putting it on this setting. Now, as you can see here, I'm running roughly at 45, but I actually took a little dip when I put OBS on and started running it in the background. So when you have these settings, you should be, if you have the same setup as me, you should be running roughly at 50 FPS. So these are my final settings: 1440p resolution, full screen, DLSS on performance, frame generation on, and then there's ray reconstruction. This works really well for me. I've seen some people complaining about it. Maybe when you have it on 4K, your PC can't run it. When I tried turning this on while I was trying to run it in 4K, it just wasn't, the FPS just completely tanked. So I was trying to stay away from it as much as possible until I dropped down to 1440p. And honestly, the ray reconstruction works perfectly. You need to have lighting on max for this to work, but we have it on it anyway because everything is running so smoothly. Now, let's talk about the new settings that have come in the latest update that's regarding graphics. So the first is displacement scale. This used to be part of the model quality, and there was people sharing videos where if you had the model on low, it actually ended up making the game look slightly sharper. But what it was doing is it was essentially taking away details like little rocks, more grass, and that was fixing this sort of buzzy, faded ghosting look on the edges of certain surfaces. So they added this as a setting so that you can keep your model quality up at cinematic or ultra while turning displacement scaling off. I turned it off, maybe you don't need to, but I did notice it gave me a few extra points on my FPS. Honestly, the same goes with advanced weather. Gameplay wise, I don't think it adds much, so I would have it turned off. Another one is volumetric fog. This is another one. I have seen quite a few people mention that they've noticed an increase in their FPS if you have it down at medium or high. I just have it on medium. Again, it's something you just don't notice, and I would just much prefer to have the FPS bonus. Now, if I was trying to go for some cinematic shots, then I would probably boost it back up. But at the end of the day, most of the time I'm just looking to play the game, so I don't need to have it on. So I keep it at medium. Lighting quality. You need to keep this on max. Lighting quality is honestly the most important of all the graphic settings. Other than that, I have everything on the highest setting. Because of where I've set the resolution as 1440p, everything else you can just have it up at the top, have it on cinematic or have it on max. I don't really notice anything else affecting the FPS too much other than those ones that I pointed out. So honestly, I think this is the best way for the best setup because you have max graphics on everything, but you're also finding this little sweet spot in the middle with your resolution at 1440p. Honestly, once I had all these settings, this is when the game really felt like it was taking to the next level. But we're not done yet. I want to talk about a few more things I've changed in the settings to add to the immersion of the game. First, you want to go to accessibility and you want to turn off motion blur and you want to turn depth of field off. I think it just cleans up the image. Now, these are only personal changes for me, but I think it just looks so epic. I've set weapon display to select only. And what this does is this allows you to sort of customize the look of Cliff or whatever character you're playing as so much more by hiding your shield, and you can also hide your ranged weapon, so your bow or your cannon, or your musket, you can also hide it. Now, the last thing I want to talk about is camera offset. I think if you completely turn it off and then turn camera range down to roughly 30, this feels so much more immersive. I know this is more of like the Dark Souls sort of camera angle, and maybe it's not for everyone, but for me, this is exactly what I was looking. One more thing I want to discuss is the NVIDIA control panel. So I only made very, very small changes. I'm going to show you all my settings just so you can see maybe there's something I've changed that I haven't noticed, but all of these are on standard except for image scaling. I have this off. This actually might be the thing to fix your graphics for you if you have this setting on. It works for certain games, but Crimson Desert for me, it did not work. So image scaling, have that turned off. And then another thing I would recommend is come down to shader cache size and put that anything above 8. I have it on 10. I don't think you need to have it on 10. Anything above 8 will do. I have it on 10 from playing Elden Ring. I noticed 10 just worked the best for Elden Ring. And then I've just never changed it. Other than that, that's really it. That's the only changes I actually made in my NVIDIA control panel. But this could be the exact thing you need to help you. Okay, so here I am in game, and look how amazing this looks. It's so high quality. Everything looks amazing, and I'm running roughly between 45 to 46 FPS. But that's since I've turned OBS on. For you, if you have all these settings and you have a similar setup, you most likely will be running roughly at 49 to 50. And honestly, that's all you need for the game to look like it is running super smoothly. The game looks amazing. I have all the graphics on cinematic and max, apart from just the few that I feel tank the FPS, and the game is just running so smoothly. And honestly, I never have to touch the graphics again, no matter whether I go inside or I go into some form of a battle that has over 20 to 30 enemies running around me. Everything always runs smoothly. I never notice a dip. But if you want the graphics to look that bit better, I'm going to show you one mod that absolutely changed the game. And that mod is called Crimson Desert Visual Redux. This mod is amazing. I'm going to show you in game what it lets you do. But overall, it just allows you to tweak the coloring, and it adds an extra layer of HDR effect if you haven't got a monitor that has that built in. My monitor has that built in as well, so I've combined the two. And honestly, I think the graphics just look absolutely amazing while not affecting the FPS whatsoever. Now, if you want to know how to download this mod, all you have to do is scroll way down to the bottom, and there's really clear instructions on the installation. However, if you don't want to follow these, I have a video for you that explains it in incredible detail. Here it is here. I'm going to put the link down below, so go check out this guy's video. He explains it so much better than I ever could in immense detail, and he's the reason that I got the mod working. So let's jump into the game. Right, now that we've got it working, you can see that there's all these settings in the Reshade panel. So these are the settings that work for me. Honestly, you're only going to really be touching the top 5. I've turned the Gaussian blur off. I don't like it. I just don't think it adds. And I've sort of messed about with these. So what these are essentially changing is lighting and color. Keep the HDR setting on. It really takes the game to the next level. And as you see, if I change a few of these, look, this one adds a bit more realistic color. This one's a little bit more fantasy looking. This is the one I have it on. This is just, I think it looks amazing. This is exactly what I wanted the game to look like when I started playing it. And I've been playing it for 3 weeks, and I've only recently been able to finally get the perfect balance in the graphics. But if you're looking for these exact graphics, this super beautiful, vibrant, colorful, fantasy looking world, then these are the exact settings for you. That's all my advice I've got. Those are all the little changes I made to finally getting smooth FPS while remaining insane quality. And the real secret was changing my resolution to 1440p. I know that seems so obvious to some people, but if I could even help one person out there improve their quality and enjoy this absolutely amazing game that little bit more, then that's me happy. I'm glad. Job's done. That's the video anyway, guys. If I've helped you at all, please consider liking and subscribing, and I'll see you in the next one.